Right. And this is the picture of
That's
the
showing
monks that you were
cooperation
mentioning.
amongst two student monks, presumably in Burma or somewhere like that. And it indicates how it's easier to carry water buckets if you cooperate than if you try and struggle by yourself.
This is a good metaphor for us humans. If we could only cooperate,
Yes.
hopefully.
Do you see that being able to shift in time?
I think it's somewhat doubtful. I think that there are reasons why a proportion of the population um, look after number one as their prime objective. They want to look after themselves. Now, one of the classifications of animals are alpha males and beta males and so on. And there's a lovely story that I revel in about a group of gorillas or chimpanzees, I don't recall which, was had alpha males and beta males, and they were adjacent to a safari camp, and at one point the alpha males, of course, were lording it over all the rest of their group and not being very pleasant about it. The camp at one point had a lot of meat that went bad, and so the cooks, rather than or the best way that they thought to dispose of this was just to throw it out so that the chimpanzees could eat it.
Yeah.
The alpha males, of course, looking after number one, gobbled up all the meat and wouldn't let the other animals eat it because they were king of the roost. And interestingly enough, the meat was sufficiently poisonous that all the alpha males died, and the group became much more harmonious because there were only beta males around from then on out, and they believed in cooperation rather than in dominance.
Mm-hmm.
So for a time being, until more alpha males were produced by the genetic coupling, the chimpanzees had a much pleasanter life as a community than when they were dominated by alpha males. So it does that story indicates that sometimes dominant behavior can be self-destructive.
So maybe in the case of the virus these days, we can only hope it infects certain males who are at the head of the order of some countries.
That certainly may be one way in which the distribution of wealth is made more equitable, because the ones who try to grab more may succumb more readily. It's hard to visualize exactly how that will happen on a grander scale, but it could be that in the attempt to garner more profit for oneself, the greedy will adopt self-destructive habits.
Does this light work, or is that just?
Yes, it does.
These shoes are. These look. So when you were in India, was this a part of your military?
Yes, I was Indian Army. I was a British officer, as they were called, in the Indian Army, and my soldiers were native Indians.
Yes. Well, uh-huh. So was that a time that did you like that posting? Was that a more favorable posting than Israel, I would imagine?
Well, it was a very interesting time in my life because I had up until that point I had been in well, I was born in Canada, but I had lived in England most of my life up to that point, and therefore had a somewhat more limited point of view than I obtained when I was in India.
Yeah.
It was a great experience going to India, a lifelong experience, I would say.
Yes.
Yes, I was in Palestine the year before it became Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for just over 6 months, and the government of Britain, in its wisdom, awarded me the Palestine Star for surviving 6 months in Palestine.
Oh, was it that horrendous of a time there?
The Jews wanted their homeland, and so the average wasted rate of British soldiers was at least 1 or 2 soldiers a week were killed by the Israeli or by the gangs that were attempting to drive us out. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, what right did we have of being there?
Right.
The British were a product of a era when empires were the thing, and so Britain tried to form an empire in various parts of the world. And when you look at it from the current perspective, what the hell did they think they were doing? Who did they think they were? That they needed to protect Nigeria or India or any other parts of the world? Why not leave the people that live there to look after themselves instead of trying to exploit their natural resources with the excuse that we were carrying white man's burden?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think the Jews were behaving as one would expect people to behave. They wanted to grab that land, and it was very unfortunate for the resident Arabs that they had to be trampled beneath the ambitions of Israel to form its own country.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the is it a dog?
No, it's a cat.
It's a cat.
It's made by a local artist, pottery maker Muriel Sibley, and the flowers are tulips. And if you recall, when tulips finished their stay as being upright, they turn round in an arc like that.
Right.
And so she made it simulating an umbrella.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
It's quite intrigued me, so that when she had a show, and this was on the show at one point, I purchased this as a memory of the show, and also to help support a local artist. Behind that is the sporran, which I use with my kilt, and that sporran is made out of Highland cattle fur or skin.
Right. Cattle from here. Is it
Yes.
Yeah. And
We don't have a patriarchal system particularly, but they seem to get along all right with me.
Right. It almost appears to be matriarchal in a sense of.
Well, Nancy, I mean, a great deal of the harmony was due to Nancy. Also, I guess, um, I was fortunate enough to be able to earn a decent living as a forest ecologist working for the Government of Canada, so that we didn't suffer any deprivation when the family were growing up. As with most people, there was never enough money, of course, but there was actually always enough money to keep bread on the table and satisfy their needs. In fact, we were, relatively speaking, much better off than many people. We were fortunate to be able to purchase the land I did at the time that I did, because at that time land in the Highlands was not expensive, not cherished, because our population of Greater Victoria was much less. I certainly would not have been able to, were I starting out now, I would not have been able to be in the position I am in now.
Thank you for sharing your treasures and yourself.
Oh yes, I'm a treasure too.
You are a treasure as well, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah, I think probably a lot of people in the Highlands think of you as one of maybe the main treasure of this community that has enabled the...
Well, you can't please all the people all the time. There are others who view me as their major enemy, but...
Yeah, and I guess that's a part of something that you can't do. You can't please all of the people, so you have to know that you're not going to
that's right.
do that, and not even try.
Oh, one can try to soften the blow for people who don't like what you're doing, but you can't avoid it completely.
Okay.
Well, you can by doing nothing.
Yes, as one friend of mine sends out on her emails, something along the fact, or it's, if you choose to do nothing, and I forget who maybe made this statement, you are aligning with the status quo.
That's right, yes.
You are not helping change that's needed. You're, something like that. All right, signing off from the Highlands for now. Once again, it is Sunday, March the 15th, 2020. Paul Monfett interviewing Bob McNinn. And thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. And I trust you will get good marks for your efforts.
Thank you. I hope so.